Hello again and welcome to the Big Byte. Today I will be showing you how to do crowd multiplication in After Effects. But before that, let me show you what exactly we are about to do. We expect basic After Effects knowledge for those watching this tutorial. As you can see, there is lots of crowd in the stadium. This is all done in After Effects. If I turn off the crowd layers, this is the original stadium, which is empty. You will understand how to do this in After Effects and to do it effectively. To make it believable and very high quality, proper comping is the key to a realistic output. To add crowd, we need crowd. So shooting crowd with right angles and lensing is very important. That is the job of the VFX supervisor. Let us see how multiple crowd shots were taken and keyed and then grouped together to achieve this look. So we need to key out the clips, roto out the layers which are obstructing the crowd, and finally track and composite the crowd with the empty stadium. As you can see, there are grills, objects, staircase, and more behind which crowds may be composited. So we need to rotoscope or mask out these areas as a separate layer. Again, we are doing this so we can place crowd behind these layers. As you can see again, this is the empty plate. As I turn on these layers, you can see crowd. So we will need to separate these grills, these objects and more. We will finally need to blend the crowd layers with our environment. So to recap, the three main procedures to be done are chroma keying of the crowd, then rotoscoping the elements behind which the crowd will come, and finally the blending and compositing. So let's go step by step and see how it's done. I have imported some crowd footages which are shot especially for this shot. As you can see, these clips are shot against green screen. There are various layers for compositing at different angles. Let's key out these clips in Keylight, which is a part of After Effects. This is not a chroma keying tutorial, so I'll just cover the important parts of the keying process. If you want to learn more about chroma keying, there is a tutorial about the same on our channel, so you can find a link in the description. Let's select Keylight from our effects panel. You can double click or drag and drop Keylight on the footage to be keyed. Let's pick screen color from the Keylight panel and hit on any distinct green area on the screen. We need to pick green since we want to key out the green or make the green transparent. If we hit on the toggle transparency grid here, you can see a dummy checkered background against our layer. You can judge our key against this. As you can see, the key is not proper. There are lots of transparent areas in the crowd and other imperfections. You can hit on the section to view the matte or alpha of the keyed area. Select alpha from the list of channels. What you see now is a black and white representation of your keyed image. The black are transparent, the white is opaque, and gray areas are translucent. You will see a lot of gray areas in the body of the crowd. This means that those areas will be transparent. This is not what we want. We want the body of the crowd to be white, which represents full opacity, and the background to be black. There should be no gray areas within the crowd. On the screen matte selections, we have clip black, clip white, clip rollback, and various other options to tweak our key. If I click black, you can see the black or transparent portions in the footage is being reduced. If I adjust clip white, you can see white getting white or more opaque. You can use screen balance to adjust both of them interactively. If I turn the RGB channel on, you can see a crowd in color with less transparent areas or holes. This is a relatively decent key, but can be tweaked further later on. You can see some garbage here, which we need to remove. Let us mask out this garbage. We select the pen tool, draw a rough mask, but the crowd has disappeared. Here you can see the properties of the mask. Let us hit on subtract and the crowd appears again without the garbage. There are various replace color methods one can use while keying. Source gives you the original color of the clip, but if I select soft color or hard color, it will suppress the spill of that region or color. Let's revert to source. This is our keyed out footage. If you turn the key light keyer effect off, you can see the non-keyed footage in its original form. You will need to follow the same procedure in the rest of the shots. We will need to key these clips and use them to create the composite crowd in our shot. Now let's add crowd to this barren shot. Now let's roto this grill which is in front of the proposed crowd. Let's duplicate this layer here. Let's draw a shape with the pen tool. We would need to animate this and track it with the original footage. As you can see, it is slipping right now. You can use various techniques in After Effects to achieve this. Either you can track this mask or animate this mask manually with keyframes. Let me show you a simple technique to animate this grill with tracking. To do this, right click on your After Effects crowd footage, open track and stabilize, and hit on track motion. As you can see, this is my track point. This is the tracker properties menu. We need to track position, rotation and scale in this. So let's go ahead and check mark these boxes. There are 2 track points now. Let me put the first track point somewhere here. I will now place the second track point here. There should be good information here for tracking. Hit on the play shape button to start tracking. Remember that the trackers track from the current position on the timeline. So make sure you have the timeline cursor at the right point on your timeline, or your entire clip may not get tracked. Your timeline cursor should usually be at the beginning of the clip you want to track. There, the tracking is complete. As you can see, it's better to make a null object for tracks. There is one existing null object, but let's make a new one. Let's use null 90 for our purposes. Now let's set a tracking target and set null 90 as our tracking target. This now attaches null to the track information. Hit on apply and apply it in X and Y. We can apply individually to X and Y, but for now let's apply it to X and Y. As you can see, this is my null with all track information. Let us now take a solid layer. You can do this by right clicking on the timeline panel and then selecting new and then solid. These are the properties of the solid layer you are going to create. It is always advisable to keep your solid layer a little larger in size than your composition layer, so that your solid layer won't get cropped while working. So now I will increase the size of this solid layer before creating it. This is by dragging on the resolution area. It is better to enable lock aspect ratio before changing your solid layer size. As you can see, the solid is bigger than the composition. Let us now parent the solid layer to null 90, which we created earlier. If I play my timeline, you can see the solid layer moving as per the track information now. If you adjust the solid in X and Y, it now covers our entire composition even after the track movement. I will turn my solid layer off for now. I will now make a mask on the solid layer itself. As you can see, the track moves nicely with our footage. Let us now make a vertical mask again on the solid layer. You can duplicate these masks because it's the same size as the other vertical bars. You can see my roto masks moving with the track of footage movement. If we put on the solid layer, you can see it's in red color, but we need the footage texture and not a solid color. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this footage layer, drag it below my solid layer which also contains my roto, and then say alpha matte. Now our red color has vanished, but the masks are still there. As you can see, this is a separate roto and track layer with the masks of the grill. This is an example. You will need to roto out each part which is overlapping with the crowd. This is so we can put these layers over the crowd. This portion and more. You will need to roto out these layers so we can add crowd behind them. Once you are done with the rotoscoping, your layers would look something like this. If I turn the background layer off, you can see the layers I have rotoscoped and separated. As you can see, these are my tracked roto layers, matched to the background. You can place crowds here, here and here. Now I will turn my background layer on. You can now place crowds here. Let's start our crowd multiplication. We will need to take our keyed these footages into our composition. You can copy these footages by pressing Ctrl C, go to our composition and paste it over our shot. Now you can see this crowd footage is too big for a stadium. We need to reduce the size of the crowd to fit into our chairs and magnification. Scale and position need to be adjusted for that. Let's go to the layer properties and open up the transform. Let's adjust the scale and position to our liking, matching it with the background scale. Let's scale it down. As you can see, I have put this layer down here in the hierarchy. If I position this layer above the roto there, it will be on top of that layer, the grills in this case. This is not what we want. Always remember, we need to put our crowd shots beneath the roto layer. I will drag it down now. As you can see, these are our roto layers and this is our crowd footage. We now need to blend our crowd layer with this kind of mood in the background footage. This whole crowd layer looks very bright and stands out. It doesn't look like a part of this stadium. We need to color correct the crowd layer to blend it with the environment. For this, open the effects panel, select color correction and then select exposure. We can see various values here. If I pull down the exposure, we can see the crowd getting darker. You can play around with the offset and gamma too. Using this, we need to color correct our footage. It looks quite blended with the background now. We need to correct the skin tones though. I will now take another exposure effect and make some adjustments. It looks quite nice to me. You can use your own techniques for color correction to make it look even better. Let's give it a little blur so it doesn't look like a cutout. Let's go to blur and sharpen and select fast box blur. Let's only blur it a bit. You can try other blurs too if you think it looks better. It definitely looks good now. I will turn off the color correction effects for now. As you can see, some parts are overlapping with the chair. So we need to roto out the chair parts to make it look real and correct. Let's select the areas to subtract with the pen tool. You will need to add keyframes to animate these layers. As you can see, now these characters are sitting behind the chairs and not over them. We need to match the position of the crowd sitting with that of the chairs. As you can see, this is behind this chair and so is this. Let's turn on the color correction. See how nice it looks now? Let's take one more footage. This time, a man waving a flag. Let's now paste it here. If somehow you don't see your layer here, use the bracket key to get it back. It may have gone in some time space which is beyond your current timeline. You can drag your crowd layer back and forth if it is big enough in duration. This way you can select a different in and out point for your crowd clips. Let's scale and position this new clip appropriately. This looks better now. Remember, you need to parent these crowd layers to the track information. For that, just click here and parent it to the null object. If I play on my timeline, the man with the flag is correct, but the earlier crowd is not in sync with the stadium movement. You can select the earlier crowd layer and parent it to null 90. Awesome! Let's copy the color correction of the earlier crowd layer and paste it on the man with the flag. It is so much better now. Color is uniformly matched across the crowd. Let's add some more crowd. Let me take this crowd and paste it here. Let's adjust the transformation values again. We need to be precise while scaling and transforming. Keep in mind the aspect of the scene too. Let us put the legs behind the chairs again. Now let's apply the color correction. We need to fill the stadium with various crowd layers and follow the same process that we have seen. Once we are done placing the various crowd layers, our composition will look something like this. As you can see, this is made up of various crowd layers. One thing to do is place the layers in an organized fashion. Our layer below on the timeline is our top layer in the stadium. You will automatically understand this once you start compositing. If I take this layer and drag it above, you can see the ugly overlap. We should avoid this overlap of the characters by arranging the characters or crowd layers as discussed before. Once you are done, we can select all layers except the background layer and pre-compose it. Now there are only two layers, your background and your pre-composed crowd. This is our crowd and roto, and this is our main footage. We need to do the same process for all areas which are vacant, similar to what we have done here. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Watch out for more. Subscribe and hit on the bell button for new video alerts. Goodbye.